Welcome, one and all, to Monday Night Nerd. I hope you all are having an amazing Monday night. My name is Myers Corp Cosplay. Thank you, folks, for joining me here on my show. It always means the world to me that you would spend your Monday nights here listening to me. It means so much. Thank you. I hope you're having a great night. We're here to talk about going to the movies. I have been a fan of going to the movies since, I was a wee lad, as they would say. I'm here to talk about that. But before we get into all about the movie news, we're going to talk a little bit about some news that happened this week. Megan, great to see you. Natasha, great to see you. Thank you, folks, very much for joining. Let's start things off with what happened recently. Let's talk about what happened on Thursday. I got asked to be on the Geeks & Co. show for a sixth time. 6 times I've been on that show. I don't know what I'm doing, but those guys seem to love me. They just seem to love me. No, our good buddy Messiah Complex Cosplay was not feeling too well that night, so they needed someone quickly. I got the call, and as I said on the show, have microphone, will travel. I'm ready for a moment's notice. And we talked to an amazing guest they had. They talked to Candace from CHM Therapy Services. She was on there, and they were talking a lot about mental health and some professionals talking about ways to get through anxiety if you're a cosplayer or you're going to conventions, techniques that could really help you. And honestly, by the time we got out of there, I wanted to have a big notebook of just all the things she talked about. I'm going to definitely take some of those to heart. It was a great show. I do want to clarify something. I know when we were on the show, Candace was amazing with all the information. I do feel like after watching the episode back, I may have, I don't want to say come off wrong in one of my questions or statements that I made during the show, but I just want a little clarification because I watched it back. It came out wrong. There was a moment we were talking about criticisms of cosplayers, getting criticized, feeling like you're going to get criticized for what you're wearing. And I mentioned that I receive more criticism outside of the cosplay community and convention world than I do inside. And at the end, I said, I haven't received any criticism. I just want to clarify. I've received criticism for being a cosplayer. Everybody does. I have, but like I said during the podcast, I receive way more outside of the world than inside the world. It's usually from people who don't understand what cosplay is. They think it's childish, especially people who don't know me very well. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but family and friends are good with it. But people who aren't in this world and are meeting me for the first time, when I mention it to them, they kind of give me that dog hearing the high pitched noise sound. So it happens. It's okay. The community of cosplay, the community of conventions, we love everybody who does cosplay or even just attends a convention, whether you're wearing a Superman shirt or whether you're donning the cape and cowl. You are a cosplayer, you're a convention person, and we love you no matter what. You're always a part of the fandom. That was an amazing show. I hope to be on again. I'm going for a baker's dozen by the end of the year because why not? They do an amazing job. If you don't know the Geeks & Co. folks, check them out on YouTube, the Geeks & Co. Geek Boutique podcast every Thursday night. Let's now talk about something that I was really excited about, and I have to admit, the excitement kind of waned a little bit halfway through it, and that was the Royal Rumble. I am a big wrestling fan. If you're unaware, I have been a wrestling fan since 1997 when I first saw wrestling, and I've been a diehard ever since. And every year around this time, it is time for the Royal Rumble. For those who don't know what the Royal Rumble is, it is a 30-man over-the-top rope battle royal where anything could happen. Surprise legends could come back. New legends are made. It's usually an amazing event, and last Saturday it was the 2024 Royal Rumble, and I was super excited. I had a few people over here at the house to watch it, and overall it was a great show, but I have to admit, it was a little underwhelming. I don't want to say anything bad about the show. It may just because I'm not as big of a fan as I used to be. I used to cancel things to watch wrestling. I don't do that anymore. I have way too many important things. This being one of them, that big table full of cosplay supplies behind me, that's another one. I haven't been keeping up with absolutely everything. I have a general idea of what's going on. I do have podcasts that I listen to. Um, but overall, the Royal Rumble was good. The women's Royal Rumble was amazing. It was great seeing people like Jordan Grace, who is from TNA, another wrestling promotion, come into the Royal Rumble with her women's knockouts championship belt. It was really cool to see that. It was really cool to see Bayley, after all this time, finally win a Royal Rumble and is going to WrestleMania to fight for the championship. Logan Paul killing it again. For those who don't like Logan Paul, I completely understand it. Personally, after seeing him do so much amazing work in the ring, I am a fan of Logan Paul. He is an amazing heel. He's amazing on the mic. He is amazing in the ring. I can't say enough good things about him. World Championship match, or the Undisputed Championship match, I should say. Roman Reigns is still the champion. He will be going on to Perth, Australia next month at Elimination Chamber, and we're pretty sure he's going to be facing Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, who is returning. And finally, the men's Royal Rumble. It was good. It felt a little slow. Again, there's a lot of people in that match that I haven't been following close enough. So there's a lot of people that I just went, I don't know who these people are. In fact, Mr. Pat McAfee, who, if you are a fan of ESPN, you'd probably know of him. He is one of the commentators for WWE, and he has said on his podcast today that even there was some moments where he was thinking the same thing. He wasn't sure who was coming out, so I'm glad I'm not the only one. But Mr. Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, wins the Royal Rumble second year in a row and will be going on to face Roman Reigns this April. Yeah, April for the Undisputed Universal Championship at WrestleMania. And overall, it was good. I can't say anything bad about the Rumble. It's always fun. But like I said, I think it's just because I haven't been watching regularly enough that it just wasn't the best for me. I have those nostalgia goggles. I still miss, the Stone Cold Rumbles, Triple H coming in, stuff like that. Those were the days for me. But still, the group of talent they have now is incredible. And bravo for them for putting on a heck of a show. Now we get to the fun part. If you've been following me on Instagram, recently I mentioned that I saw Aquaman 2. Now, I can't hide it. It was terrible. I have to bury the lead. It was such a bad movie. It is, where do I start with this thing? You can tell watching this movie that is the end of an era when it comes to not just this franchise, but the DCEU in total. I don't want to spoil too much, but there was reports that because of the trial with Johnny Depp, Amber Heard's part would have been cut to a minimum. That didn't happen. She was there just as much as I don't know where they cut her, because she was in as much of the movie as she could have been. That was funny. I will spoil one scene. Jimmy Woo, who is the officer from the Marvel Universe, he does the flip magic that he learned from Ant-Man. He is in this movie. There is a scene where he was going on an exploration of the Arctic with a partner. They crash through the ice. The partner breaks his leg. They hit the button to call for backup, which is Black Manta's team. A tentacle from Cthulhu or whatever grabs the partner, pulls him under the ice. And when Black Manta's team gets there, Jimmy Woo is behind the truck, and he is scared almost to the point of tears, saying there's something here or something to that effect. They cut, and then the next scene, Jimmy Woo is walking down the hole to find the partner, doing exposition next to Black Manta as if nothing happened. It was such a change in 1 second that it totally cooked me out of the movie. There was maybe a couple good scenes in the movie, I have to say. Ocean Master is in the desert. They bring him back as soon as he touches water, and he recharges and goes from frail to built. I really enjoy that. I think that's my idea of what Aquaman would be like. If he couldn't get to the water, he would become shriveled up and old and frail. But after that scene, Aquaman and him get on a ship back to Atlantis, and within one scene, he goes from long hair to short hair. And that just was like another, how did you miss that? But yeah, it was bad. And I'm not going to spoil the ending, but if I was in the theater seeing this movie, I would have booed out loud. It was that bad. This is the end of the DCU EU universe, and honestly, it's deservingly so. A few friends of mine have asked me if I thought that Flash was better. If Michael Keaton wasn't in it, I would say they're tied, but because Michael Keaton was in the Flash was better. And I cannot believe I'm saying that, but it's true. Blue Beetle beats both of them, though. Blue Beetle was a great movie compared to the. What do we have in chat? Um, they cut enough out that it didn't make any sense, says Megan. And yeah, um, Natasha in chat, haven't seen it yet. And they only cut her out of the trailer just to get people to see it. Honestly, Natasha, I completely agree with that. I have sat back and thought about where they cut her out, and I don't know. I honestly do not know where they cut her from. Yeah, it was so you see in chat, really enjoyed Blue Beetle, to be honest. So did I. I really enjoyed Blue Beetle. I did not think I would enjoy it as much as I did. It was such a good movie. I was really impressed by that. I have a friend who is also a die-hard, weird old comic fan. And I know as soon as he saw them mention the original Blue Beetle, he lost it. I was so happy to talk to him a couple days later, and we just geeked out of like, they're gonna show the old Blue Beetle because they had the ship and the suit and everything. It was really cool. But yeah, Aquaman, wow, it was bad. I hope Momoa comes back as Lobo. I think he will do an incredible Lobo, but they're definitely going to need to recast Aquaman and bring him back in a brand new form, because if you look at what they did, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. That's all for reviews. I do want to bring up something. The next convention I'm going to be going to is Toronto Comic-Con in March. And I was going to come on here and talk about all of the amazing guests they have announced for Comic-Con. However, they've barely announced anybody, and it's only a couple months away. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to talk about the con that I'm going to be volunteering at, and that is Niagara Falls Comic-Con. Niagara Falls Comic-Con is on June 7th to June 9th, and every year they are knocking it out of the park. And every year it gets bigger and better and badder. And I have to say, this year is exploding when it comes to guests. Chevy Chase is now going to be there. He was announced today. We've got Dolph Lundgren. Ivan Drago is going to be in Niagara Falls in June. Peter Weller, Mr. RoboCop. Robert Patrick. T-1000, the villain from Reacher, the villain, or Peacemaker's dad from the Peacemaker show. Bryan Danielson, if you're a wrestling fan. The Bella twins or the Garcia twins, whichever one you want to call them, will be there. Judith Hogue, the original April O'Neil from the first TMNT movie, will be there. I'm going to be nerding out because I can't wait to meet her. And Jason Priestley, for all you 90210 fans. It is going to be a killer show. I will be there volunteering as usual. It will be an amazing show. Justin Smith says NFC is lacking in horror guests this year compared to last year. You know what? I agree, but you know what? They killed it last year with the entire Terrifier class. What's his name? Jason Voorhees was there. They will throw some horror icons in there, or because they're the same owners as Frightmare, they might be holding back, because I have heard rumors that they're trying to knock it out of the park for Frightmare this year. So you might have to wait until October, but from what I've heard, and I don't want to say because I don't want to say something that may not be able to told, they are going to blow it out of the water when it comes to Frightmare this year in October. Yes, Doug Bradley and Kate Hodder. Kate Hodder was nuts last year. Yeah, Sam Raimi is going to be at Frightmare. I've heard that as well. Yeah, so overall, it's been a great week. That's my reviews. That's my little bit on Niagara Falls Comic-Con. Let's jump into the sponsor, and then we got a lot to talk about movies. Folks, if you're new here, or if you've been here for a while, my sponsor, as always, is my beautiful, lovely wife. I've said it every time, and I mean it every time. I would not be the person I am without her. She has made me such a better person. I can't say enough good things about her. She is amazing to be a beautiful wife for me, and I become speechless sometimes because there are so many things I want to say about her because she has done so much for me and I can't wait to see what we do in the future. Thank you, hon. I love you. You will always be my sponsor. Now let's jump into our main event. Let's talk about going to the movies. Now, a lot of people have gone to the movies. A lot of people are movie fans, and that makes Justin Smith. I did talk about the Rumble. I talked about it just before we jumped into Niagara Falls Comic Con. Good show. I didn't know a lot of people. That's my quick review. You're gonna have to go back and watch the rest of it to see my full review. Movies. I love going to the movies. Now, a lot of people like going to the movies. That's understandable, but there's something, I don't want to say it's an obsession, but it is something that has been in me since I was a little kid. And I have to say, the reason I've been such a fan since I was a little kid is thanks to my dad. My dad growing up would take myself and my sister to the movies all the time. It was almost a weekly thing. We would go see so many movies from when I was a little kid, seeing Toy Story and Lion King, all the way up to just when the MCU started. I would end up going with him and my sister on, say, a Friday, and then we would go see it with friends on a Saturday. So I would end up seeing a lot of the Marvel MCU movies twice in one weekend because I didn't want to say no to my dad because I love seeing it with my dad, but then we also have to go see friends because we'd want to talk about it. But yeah, thank you to my dad for taking me to the movies so much when I was a kid. I will be completely honest. There was a time in my life where I saw it as something where we didn't want to communicate, and that was our way of seeing each other. We'd go to the movies, and then we would drop me off at home at my mom's. But overall, it was actually something that I really appreciate because now I'm such a big movie fan and I can do things like this and talk about my love of movies. Megan in chat, I love the whole adventure of going to the show. My dad also would bring my brother and I to see everything. It's a family thing. That is part of it. Going to see it with friends and family means a lot to people. What was my first movie? What was my first movie? The first movie I can think of was obviously a Disney movie. I want to say it was Lion King, or nope, it was Beauty and the Beast was my first movie. Beauty and the Beast is the first one I can remember sitting in a theater and seeing on a big screen. After that, it's kind of a blur. I know there was some Disney movies and there was a couple other ones, but it wasn't till I hit my first solo movie. And what's my first solo movie? Well, when I got to the part where there were movies that I wanted to see, but my dad didn't really want to see it, my mom didn't want to see it. I had a movie theater right down the street from my house, and my mom said, "Well, I'll give you the cash. You can go, and I'll drop you off and I'll pick you up." Happy with me. So the first time I ended up seeing a movie on my own was Pokemon, the first movie. That was an experience for me because that was one of the first times I was allowed to be an independent kid. The word sheltered's not the right word, but it's the only one I can think of right now. I was very protected as a kid. I'm an only child. I have a half sister who is my sister, I say. But it was really me and my mom. So my mom was very protective of me. So that independence really didn't kick in till a later age. And going to see a movie on my own was one of the first times I was entrusted to don't be an idiot, don't get in trouble. And I really enjoyed it. I have to admit, though, I missed the end of the movie. This is one of the first times I realized that what you do beforehand affects later, because I was so excited to be there that I got a big popcorn, I got a big pop, and throughout the whole movie, I'm sitting there doing that stereotypical throwing popcorn back and drinking pop and enjoying the movie, and then, oh my God, I gotta pee. And I had to go pee, and I walked out, didn't even think about it, went to the washroom, came back. As I'm walking to the theater, everyone's walking out. I missed the key part of that movie, the Pikachu zapping Ash to bring him back to life and all the Pokemon crying. I didn't see that for a while. I missed that entire thing because I had to go to the washroom, and that made an impact on me that we will talk about later. But that was my first time going to the movies. After that, it became a very regular thing. I ended up going to see a lot of movies on my own because there were tons of movies that I wanted to see because, again, I'd seen so many movies. I had so many interests in movies. Friends didn't really want to see everything with me, so I didn't mind going by myself. That is one thing I would love a lot of, not just the younger generation, but people in general. If you want to do something and you don't have friends that want to do it with you, that's okay. You can go do things. Nobody's going to really have nobody's going to have an opinion of if you go see something. Oh, there's the guy sitting by himself. Nobody cares. Go enjoy the things that you want to go see. I've gone to movies by myself. I've gone to concerts by myself. It doesn't matter. Just go enjoy it because in the end, you enjoying it is what matters. So after that, I said, let's go see all these great movies. And the next great movie I went to see was my first adult movie, and that was Jurassic Park 3, which wasn't really an adult movie. It was honestly one of the worst of the series, but it was still, again, that little bit of independence of going to the theater on my own. Fun movie. It holds a special place in my heart. It is like Batman and Robin. It's a bad movie, I get it, but I do love it. But there was so many memories I have from going to the movies over the years that the one that always sticks out to me, and this one will go down as one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and that was there was a movie that was coming out with Alicia Cuthbert from Popular Mechanics for Kids at the time and Emil Hirsch. And I had heard so many funny things about this movie, and it was called The Girl Next Door. Now, if you've not seen The Girl Next Door, The Girl Next Door is a movie basically about Alicia Cuthbert used to be an adult film star in the movie, and she is close to high school age, and now she wants to go back and sort of have a real life. Yes, Timothy Oliphant is in it too. Um, she goes back and wants to have a high school life, and Emil Hirsch, who's a high school student, falls for her, and then he finds out that she's an adult film star, and hijinks ensue. It's actually a really good movie, I have to admit. However, when you're sitting there in a movie theater next to your dad and the lights go down and they trick you with the opening of moaning and very suggestive words, it is very, very awkward to be sitting there in the dark with your dad next to you. And we had a very good laugh after the movie was over because we're just like, all right, we have to start watching trailers before this stuff happens because we need to find out if anything awkward like this is going to be. Awkward sex scenes with parents. Yes, that also happened when my mom and her boyfriend watched American Pie with me for because they wanted to see why I liked it so much because I thought it was hilarious. Yes, Justin, very good. Short-lived wrestler Luther Reigns was in it. And yes, that was a point of my, oh my God, Luther Reigns is in this because I was and am a giant WWE fan. It's actually a really funny scene. I don't want to go through it, but yeah, it is actually a really funny cameo. But yeah, that was always there was many awkward moments like that where I think every kid has those moments of I don't want to be here with my parents to watch or be around this type of material. But yeah, there was so many great movies I've seen over the years. One that really stands out, and I think it's underappreciated, is the Avengers. Being a kid of nerddom and comic books, seeing Iron Man on the big screen is one thing. Seeing the Hulk on the screen is incredible. Seeing Captain America and all these guys, but having the first team up movie of all of them and seeing that 360 shot, I can't remember how old I was. I had to have been 20 something. I felt like a 5-year-old at that point. I felt like such a kid seeing heroes that I've looked at the comic book page up on the big screen for the first time interacting with each other. It was unbelievable. It is a moment that will stick with me, and that is always why I think a lot of people have that feeling about Endgame and Infinity War. But for me, it was Avengers. Natasha in chat. Only thing I don't like about movies is when it's full of people being loud and obnoxious in the seats. Been to 2 movies, had to walk out because people are being rude. So you know what? That brings up another funny story. There was a bunch of us. We went to go see, what was the Penguin? Happy Feet. We went to see Happy Feet. There's about 5 of us, and there were a couple behind us, probably about 3 rows back, and they were making out. They may have been doing more than making out, and we were kind of sitting there going, Happy Feet's the movie you chose? Like, I don't know. I've seen many people do stuff like that, and I'd be obnoxious, and just it kind of comes with the territory with certain movies, but I do kind of agree that it does get annoying when it comes to enjoying the movie experience. Walked out of Smile Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, I agree. I've gotten into it with a drunk guy at a theater, says Megan. Yeah, there have been some drunk instances of shushing and everything else that have happened at the movies. My wife specifically has shushed several people when we go to the movies, because they just, for some reason, we get stuck with the people who don't shut the hell up. Speaking of my wife and going to movies, this brings up a topic that I get asked a lot because I'm such a movie fan. What are my thoughts on 3D, 4DX, motion seats, and all these things? It's I got a mixed feeling on some of these. So let's talk about 3D at the beginning. So 3D is something that comes around every couple years. Like we can't keep putting these things out there as if they've never happened before. 3D's happened in the 80s. It's happened in the 2000s. Like, this stuff happens every couple years. And honestly, it works every now and then. Movies like How to Train Your Dragon, or Spider-Man, I would say. Spider-Man Spider-Verse would probably be another good one. But with every one of those, you have a Jaws 3D, you have a Friday the 13th 3D, and movies that just, they either overplay into the movie too much, or it's not used at all. It's definitely got to be a movie. Megan in chat says 3D. Green face, I completely understand. IMAX is something I appreciate. I do appreciate a bigger screen when it comes to certain movies. My friend and I had the privilege of winning tickets to see, funny enough, the first Aquaman when it premiered in Toronto. And that was one of the first times where I saw an IMAX movie and I went, oh, this fits very, very well. I do think with 3D, animation is definitely the way to go if you want to do a 3D movie. Like I said, with the live action, you're either doing a lot of this to the camera, and that becomes really freaking annoying after a while, or it's just something that doesn't really fit the medium. 4DX, that's too much for me. We went yep, D-Box as well. They kind of D-Box and 4DX will be the exact same thing in my opinion. It's too much in my opinion. Again though, I will say I've done D-Box. I'll put them together. D-Box and 4DX. We got D-Box seats to see Star Wars The Force Awakens, and we got 4DX tickets to see Across the Spider-Verse, the second one. The Star Wars was fun because we went, well, it's going to be ships flying and we're going to be moving and stuff like that. And that was fun. That was one I actually kind of enjoyed. However, there was a point where Harrison Ford turned his head and our seats went like this. And I went, no. You don't have to move all the time. Like, there's going to be points where I get where I'm sitting. You don't have to move all the time. 4DX, though, no. 4DX was way too much. The entire Spider-Man movie, we were doing it like this, and it was getting hard to watch the screen and bounce around. because you were just constantly moving in that movie. The mist was kind of cool when it was raining at the end of the movie. The wind was kind of cool. If anything, it just made you cold and wet, which isn't really a way I want to enjoy my movie. Yeah, it's too much for me. The amount that I'm paying extra for it is not worth the value. I definitely think if you've never done 3D or a 4DX or motion seats, give it a shot. But for me, it just wasn't worth it. Natasha in chat says Nightmare Before Christmas in 3D would be cool. That is one that I would love to see. I'm not a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, but I do think that is a movie that could really lend itself to a 3D environment. I turned it off within 20 minutes, says Justin Smith. Yeah, it's not worth it for me. It's too much. Personally, when I like going to the movies, I've tried my best I try and go opening night as much as I can. I because I'm such a movie fan and I have so many movie things on my social media and different websites I go to, there have been so many movies over the years that have been spoiled, and it just frustrates me because I don't want to be spoiled. I'm the guy who will remember everything. I've got a friend who I could tell him today, Darth Vader is Luke's father. Spoiler. Darth Vader is Luke's father. And in 24 hours, he'll go, I was shocked that I never knew that was going to happen. And I would love to be that person. However, I'm the person that will remember it. And I hate that part of it, but I will. So I do my best to go every Thursday night when there's something that I want to see. I've got a group of friends that usually come and we try and go together. I think since Avengers, I have seen almost every Marvel MCU movie opening night, except for the Marvels, which was because it's the Marvels. But we try and go every single Thursday when something comes out. It works out very well because an MCU movie seems to come out around my birthday. My birthday is early May, and there always seems to be one. There's been at least 3 that I can think of that were on my birthday. I think there was a Captain America, there was a Guardians, and I think there was Ant-Man. Those were all on my birthday, and that was perfect because I can just tell people we're going to the movies. And I really enjoy going early, and I love staying late. I don't know how many people enjoy that personally. Like if I could somehow take this setup, set it up at a theater, watch the movie, and then sit down and do an hour-long talk about whatever we saw after the film, I would love it. I love going to see movies with friends and talking about it after because I don't know. I just feel like there's so many movies out there that I've seen that I initially love. And I feel like if I sit down and I think about it later and I sit and ponder and ponder and ponder, I just find so many flaws with. And I feel like that initial reaction is the one you should stick with when it comes to the movies. Because if you sit down and watch anything, you could find flaws in anything. I can find flaws in The Dark Knight. Most people think it's a perfect movie, but because I've seen clips of it so many times, I've analyzed it, I can tell you the flaws of that movie. But yeah, I love sitting there at the beginning, talking about what do you think's going to happen. We definitely did that before a movie like Endgame, where we just would sit there and talk like who's going to make it, who's not going to make it, what's going to happen. And then after, just mind blown of how it happened. It's always one of the best things. And going back to a point that we talked about before, going to see Pokemon and not being able to see the rest of the movie, I get asked all the time, what are my things that I buy to eat at a movie theater? This is a big question because we have so many options, especially today. Back in the day, we had popcorn and soda and that's it. Now you can get bloody anything there. You can get froyo, you can get coffee, you can get pizza, you can get hot dogs, you can get nachos, popcorn, candy. You can get anything under the sun. What are the things that I get? Well, I will be fully transparent. I don't get anything from the theater. I know I'm this guy. I bring in my own snacks. And that's mostly because, well, two reasons. First, price. Two, they don't have the snacks I want. I don't want to get popcorn. I love popcorn. I love popcorn. Ask my wife. Anytime we go, we will use the 2 deal, get the 2 popcorns, 2 admissions, and a pop. I will take the popcorn and the pop and I will put it in the car. Because if you eat that much popcorn, you then dry your mouth out and then you drink more, which then means you have to go to the washroom and then you miss parts of the movie. And I'm the type of person that when I break the seal, I'm screwed and I will just have to keep going. And I don't want to do that. So what do I bring? I will get a pack of Hershey's cookies and cream drops because I love cookies and cream, and drops are, I don't know, I like the way they make those. For salt, I usually do barbecue peanuts. And for a drink, I usually bring a bottle of water. And those are my 3 staples. Let's quickly talk about the snacks, because I put out a post on Instagram saying, tell me what your best experience of the movies were. And everyone was great. We're definitely going to talk about them in a little bit. Also, if you didn't see my Instagram post and you have a favorite movie that we didn't talk about, put it in the chat. We're going to come back to those later. One person sent in a message that said, I said, well, the name of this episode is Going to the Movies, Are Theaters Dying or Revolving? And they put kill them or lower concession prices. Now, let's break that down. First off, no, don't kill them. I could tell that's definitely a knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people. Logistically, you're putting a lot of people out of business. B, you're putting a lot of movie industries out of business because they have nowhere to showcase their platforms that are going to get as much attention as they would there. I do think streaming services don't give them as much publicity as you might think they do. We'll talk more about that later. But lowering concession prices, folks, if you think that the movie theaters make their money from movies, you're wrong. No, they make their money from concessions. The box office takes about 10%, I think it is. When I read the Hollywood Reporter, it was 10 to 15% goes to the theater, and the rest of it goes to the studio. So if you're spending $10, they only make $1. The studio makes $9. That's why concession prices are so expensive, because popcorn is one of the cheapest foods to buy. It's pennies to buy popcorn. That's why they have such a big inflation on it, because that's the best way to make their money, because people like popcorn at movies. It is frustrating because it is something that's a staple that they sort of twist and manipulate to make it better for themselves. And I completely understand why, because people are bringing in their own food. I'm guilty of that. And they want to make as much money as possible because they want to be here tomorrow. Justin Smith says, I don't want to see movie theaters go away. I don't want to see movie theaters go away either. And we're going to talk more about that, of where I think they're going to be in the future. Yeah, I agree that the prices are a little high when it comes to certain things, especially their popcorn. I think we forgot a ticket the one time. We had the 2 date pass thing, and my wife wanted a drink, so I said, well, I might as well get myself a popcorn, and it was like $20 for a good sized popcorn and 2 pops. And I'm like, it's popcorn, folks. Like, I can make this for $1 at home, but whatever. And plus, you've got your special buckets that you got to get and stuff. I can't say anything. I don't have it here, but I've got the Mario cup from the Mario movie, so I can't say anything. I did buy that. But yeah, I've always enjoyed going to the movies. I've I always said when I was little, the one thing I wanted to do with my life before I knew I wanted to be a cosplayer, before I knew I wanted to, I wanted to make enough that I was able to pay all my bills, put enough money in the bank that I could save for savings, and make enough that I could go see a movie once a week. Like I really enjoy I love that old-timey Hollywood look. Like I've always said I want to go to Hollywood to see all the movie stuff. Unfortunately, I knew the Hollywood of today is not the Hollywood of before. Like it is not it's got its big issues now, especially with the drug epidemic that's happening down there. But I just love the thought of it. Watching movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Steven Spielberg movie, I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about his life. Watching all old timey Hollywood, even playing games like LA Noir and seeing that California old time way of living, and I just love that look. So yeah, I've always enjoyed just wanting to go to the movies and enjoy that experience. Uh, Justin Smith says, "I wish drive-ins made more of a comeback through post-pandemic." I do too. I do too. I really enjoy. We have one that's 15, 20 minutes from here. Um, it really depends on the movie, though. I've seen I've probably gone about 4 or 5 times to the drive-in. It's a fun experience, but it really depends on the movie. We did end up yes, Starlight is it. We ended up going to see Godzilla versus Kong, and that was a double feature with Wonder Woman 1980 whatever. And I had already seen Wonder Woman, so I was okay with it. But Godzilla was fun, but I could tell I was missing a lot of the details based off just you can only get so much detail on a drive-in screen. But I really do enjoy the Starlight. I think it's a great idea, but it the weather plays a big factor in that. Especially the past couple years, it's been off and on rain a lot of the summer. Like last year, we had a pretty summer. But if I can get out there to see one for a good price, yeah, I do enjoy going to the Starlight. I'm trying to think of what the other one I saw. We saw Jurassic World. Yes, the first Jurassic World we saw, and that was fine. That was fine. It's probably just depending on the night. Also, the Godzilla and Wonder Woman night, it was freezing. I went and my buddy went in his own car. And we were sitting side by side, and of course, when you're at the drive-in, you can't have your car on. You have to have it on to hear the audio, but you can't have it running. So I remember being there in like a snowsuit, basically, with blankets all over me, shivering in this movie, and he was doing the same in his car. So it really depends on the night that you go. But I do enjoy the drive-in. It's always a fun time out there. Um, so let's jump in a little bit. Actually, let me talk about 2 fun experiences that weren't movie based, but it was going to the theater based. We I got to remember when this was. I remember back in the early 2000s, late 90s, IMAX was becoming a big thing. I think that they'd come out a few years before and they were really pushing to get people to the IMAX screen, but nobody really knew what to do with it. So they started to do special presentations, I believe they called them. They wouldn't do movies, but they did like National Geographic specials. I think there was an ESPN thing where they did a baseball documentary, and the one they did was they had a NASCAR documentary where they talked all about the ins and outs of NASCAR. I am not a giant NASCAR fan, but I do know about NASCAR. My dad and my sister are racers. They used to race up at a local track here. So I was around NASCAR my whole life as a child. So I do have a knowledge of it. And my dad wanted to go see this documentary. And we were really excited. It was myself, my dad, my sister, and my dad's friend. And we drove. The only IMAX cinema in the area was Mississauga at the Square One movie theater. and we were all excited. And this was back in the day where it wasn't the 3D that we have now, where it's the clear glasses. It was the color, where it was the red and blue or red and green overlapping. And they would give you the red and green glasses to put on. And we got there. We were all excited, and it's in 3D and it's IMAX. That's what I meant to say. The glasses were red and green 3D. And we were really excited. We walk in, we sit down, and my dad puts on the glasses and he realizes he can't do this movie. And the reason is my dad's blind in one eye. He had a childhood injury what left him blind in one eye. And once we got there and we sat down, none of us realized it until we put the glasses on and went, oh no, this doesn't work for you. And so he got to experience the NASCAR movie, like I said, in green or red. I can't remember which lens was working for him. But yeah, those were the days where if now he's fine because you can just watch it. There's a little bit of, double vision when it comes to watching just the screen as it is. But yeah, that was one of those moments where we're like, we drove so long and we're so excited, and none of us picked up on it until we got to the theater and sat down. The other one that I always love talking about, this is the road to WrestleMania. We're getting into WrestleMania season, and back in the day, I think they still do it. Cineplex will show the wrestling pay-per-views. You can go for $30 or $20 or whatever and go watch the WWE pay-per-views. And I think they also do AEW on the big screen. And back in the day, we couldn't afford to have pay-per-view at my house. So the only other option, if you just miss it, was we ended up going to the theater. And we would go every couple months, usually for the big pay-per-views or if we knew a big angle was happening. And one year it was WrestleMania 21, or not 21, WrestleMania 17. It was The Rock versus Stone Cold. It was the biggest WrestleMania. It probably still is, in most fans' opinion, the biggest WrestleMania of them all. And it was myself, my buddy Kurt, and my buddy Caleb. And we were super excited to go, and we wanted to do something special because this was a special pay-per-view. We were super excited. What were we going to do different? Well, we wanted something different to eat. We didn't want popcorn. For those who don't know, WrestleMania is a 3-hour pay-per-view. It's a long time, so you're definitely going to want some food and some liquids. We ended up going to Taco Bell before the pay-per-view started, and we got 50 tacos between the three of us. They had a 50 taco pack for, I don't remember how much, but we got 50 soft tacos, and we strolled in to the Cineplex up in Ancaster carrying 4 bags of tacos to our seats. We picked up a couple drinks when we got there, and we walked in and we sat down and we just started scarfing back tacos. And we probably had only 5 left by the end of the night, and we felt like dog shit. It was so, I've never felt as sick as I did that night. Like so 50 divided by 3, we were at least eating 15 tacos a piece. Like 15 tacos in 3 hours. It's not too bad when you think of, it's not great tacos, it's Taco Bell. That's where the problem comes in. But yeah, it was a great pay-per-view, but do not do that. Do not get 50 tacos and try and split them, especially Taco Bell tacos. Go to a good taco place and get 50 tacos. So let's talk about the name of the show. Are theaters dying or evolving? I don't think they're dying. Well, let me take that back. I don't think they're dying in the way everyone thinks. I think when anyone says they're dying, I think the big chains are going to have a problem. I think let's look at the logistics of it. You're a person. You're a human. I believe you're a human. You might not be a human. You might be a very intelligent dog. I don't know. Whoever's watching this, if you have a family, let's say you're a wife, you have a husband, you have a wife, you have a significant other, you have a kid. You want to go to the movies, you want to see the new Shrek 95. You two are going to need to pay for gas to go to the theater. You're going to possibly pay for parking, depending on where the theater is. You're going to pay for admissions, and you're probably, if you have a kid or if you want to, you're going to have to pay for some type of food for probably 3 people. You're looking at about $100, if not more, to take a family to the movies now. That's a little outside most people's comfort zones, which I completely understand. This is where I think the problem becomes for the bigger cinemas, because you have so much back end that needs to be paid for, that you need to be doing well to keep the lights on. Like, you're paying staff, you're paying hydro, you're paying property taxes, you're paying food, you're paying, the price for the movie, all these things, cleaning crew, etc., that I don't know how well the IMAX and the Cineplex are going to last going forward, because I can't say anything about the streaming services, because it's what everyone wants. The convenience of having everything at your fingertips and everything sitting at home in the comfort of your own home, pausing a movie when you need to go to the washroom, having your own food there, which is definitely going to be cheaper than the cinema. There's no comparison that it's a better value to stay at home. The other problem is, what is going to get someone out to the theater? I remember reading an article back, it was probably about a decade ago, that there are only about 4 or 5 properties that will get people out of their seats and go to the theater. Superheroes being 1, James Bond / Mission Impossible being 2, Disney being 3. I think Star Wars was number 4, and I think Spielberg was number 5. Those are the 5 parameters that are almost a guarantee to get people out to the theater. And I don't think much has changed. I think you definitely still have I'll call it the big fight feel when it comes to going to the theater and seeing something big. Barbie was a great example of a property that I don't think a lot of people on paper thought would do as well as it did. And it blew it out of the water, and everybody wanted to see it together, and everybody wanted to get dressed up, cosplaying, to go to the theater to see it. It's, as Megan says in the chat, I think they're evolving, coming with ways to take in entertainment. Yes, and thank you for pointing that out. That was my next point, is that they now have different things besides movies. Cineplex has their opera line throughout the summer, I think it is, or I believe it's all year, where they show big screen opera performances. Concerts are on there. Taylor Swift was one of them. Documentaries. I'm trying to think what else. The WWE pay-per-views. Stuff like that is bringing a different audience in for a different feel than just going to see a movie. I have seen 2 concert films, both Metallica, 3 Metallica films in the theater. I saw the Big 4 concert with Anthrax, Slayer, and Megadeth. I saw the Metallica movie, which we're not going to talk about because it was crap, through the Never, and I saw the Symphony number 2 shows, which were all amazing, and I really wanted to see that with fans. And I think that's their best chance of evolving. I don't know, however, if that's going to be enough to keep them going. Do I think that size theater is going to last? I don't know. Does that mean the independents will fall? That's a different story. We do have a lot of independent films, cinemas around here, which I think will become the opportune place to see things, because they have a little more freedom to showcase sometimes movies that you have that are more independent, so you get a different audience, but also older films. I recently went to see the original TMNT movie at the Westdale Theater not 5-6 months ago, and I had a blast there. A friend of mine, Mr. Dave Thorne, who was on the podcast, he proposed to his now fiance at that theater, and we watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which was really fun to see a movie like that in that type of cinema. Um, and that's where I have to disagree, Meg. I think there's definitely independent cinemas. I just don't think they have the buzz that they do because they just don't have. I don't know if it's they don't have the marketing budget. I don't think they know how to do it properly. Whether it's just everyone thinks of Cineplex and Landmark as the two big ones, I don't know. But I definitely think there will always be a version of going to the movies, to the cinema in some form. I just don't think it's going to be this version of it. I attribute it to when the pandemic happened and a lot of restaurants unfortunately had to close, which was terrible. It was terrible especially if you were an owner or you worked for one of those restaurants. But I always said this gives somebody the opportunity, because now we have the space, or the area might be missing a restaurant, for some new restaurant to come in and make their mark. And maybe they'll become the next big thing when it comes to going to see or going to a restaurant. And I do feel that's the same way with cinemas. I think that I mean, think about it now. There was even back when I was a little younger, I'm in central Hamilton. There was a cinema at one point at the Center Mall. There was one at Eastgate. There was one at Lime Ridge. There was the Ancaster Cineplex. There was Jackson Square. Like, there was 5 within a 20-30 minute drive. That's too much. Like that, and they started to slowly get eaten up. Now you've got Jackson Square if you want something a little smaller. You've got Cineplex up in Ancaster. You've got Cineplex in Stony Creek, Cineplex in Burlington. Even there's definitely ones. Yes, Fiesta Mall. I let's not forget about Fiesta Mall in Stony Creek. I remember going to see Ready to Rumble at that cinema. But yeah, I definitely think we're probably going to lose at least 1 to 2, maybe Cineplex cinemas in here around this area. But I don't think they're ever going to go away. I think it really depends on multiple factors. I think definitely we need, I don't want to say, and I can't remember who said it earlier in the chat, but the Marvel or the superhero movies aren't getting the buzz they used to. I don't think it's really the superhero fatigue that everyone says. I think we're just tired of seeing a lot of rinse and repeat movies. A lot of people said movie theaters were dead. Oppenheimer and Barbie showed you otherwise. Taylor Swift showed you otherwise. People want to go to the movies. I don't think that feeling is gone. I just think people are only going and are becoming more selective in what they go see because, because the prices are what they are. They're just too pricey. So people have to become very selective on what they go to. And I think big event movies like Barbie, like Oppenheimer, like Marvel, I think that will always have an audience. It's just going to be hard to get people to go see a movie that is random, that doesn't really get publicity. And let's be honest, the nostalgia is always there. The nostalgia will always be there. And we're getting to the point. I brought this up on a past episode. We're 13, 14, 15 years into the MCU. We're getting close to that nostalgia coming back around. You watch out for it. I'm telling you now, you watch out in the next 5-10 years. I'm going to say 5. You're going to start to see original Iron Man, original Cap. That's going to start to come back around because now you've got kids who were 2, 3, and 4 are now grown up and want to bring that childhood love back. So don't be surprised if Disney, Marvel, and not just them, but you're going to get that nostalgia come back around, and we're going to start seeing that become nostalgia, which is scary. that 2004 or 2005 when Iron Man came out is now going to be considered nostalgia. God, I'm getting old. I can see the gray coming in a little bit. Megan said we choose what to see so we don't break the bank. But I remember going every week when I was younger. Good old Tuesday. Yeah, agreed. And I think a lot of people have that experience of enjoying going on cheap nights. But unfortunately, cheap nights don't exist. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. Let's give a shout out to Landmark for doing something that I don't think any other I don't think any cinema before them ever thought of. While Cineplex was building motion seats and all these crazy gizmos, Landmark comes in out of nowhere and uses lazy boy recliners. Like, let's give them a round of applause for the game changer that is the reclining lazy boy seats. Like, I couldn't believe how eureka that moment was when I heard that they were coming up with that, and having one right there. Mind you, it really depends on the movie. I went to see what did I see? 2099, Harrison Ford. Why am I blanking? Anyways, I saw a movie that was very long. Blade Runner. Thank you. Blade Runner 2099. I remember seeing that, and that was a very long movie and being nice and comfy and relaxed. Not the movie to see because you're ready to fall asleep. Yeah, Justin in chat. Cineplex should take notes on Landmark. Agreed. I think it's a great idea, and I love going to Landmark for those reasons. I think that's where we come to the end. I don't think there's anything else I can really think of. Yeah, I think the cinemas will always be there. I don't think they're going away. I think we're going to have different versions of it. I think the independent cinemas are always going to be there. They might become the new kings of seeing these big movies. There's definitely an overabundance of theaters that I don't think need to necessarily be there. What movies am I looking forward to, Alex? What am I looking forward to see? I'm looking forward to seeing the new Godzilla and Kong. What else am I looking forward to seeing? I'm trying to think of what's coming out. I'm interested to see. I'm interested in seeing Craven. I'm really interested to seeing Madam Web. That is one that I think a lot of people are bashing, that I don't know if it's going to be as bad as everyone thinks. I think it might actually be a pretty good movie. Is it going to be amazing? No. Is it going to be the best? No. I don't think so. But I think we could see something good out of it. So I'm interested to see that. I'm trying to think what else is on my list. I've got a couple. Yeah, I can't think of anything. See, you put me on the spot, Alex. I can't think of anything right now, and I don't want to throw up my Google and start going through all these movies. But yes, those are my thoughts. Thank you all. Let's go through quickly what other people are excited to see. On my Instagram, I posted what is everybody's favorite movie to see in theaters. Edith mentioned Atlantis: The Lost Empire. I have seen bits of Lost Empire. It was one that I missed growing up, but she said that was one of her favorites. Thomas says Infinity War and Endgame. Thomas was there when I was with him when I saw Infinity War and Endgame. He saw me ugly cry so hard at the end of Endgame. Infinity War I was pretty good with, but Endgame, I'm a Cap fan, and seeing him get the girl and get his happy ending, oh my god, I bawled like a baby. Yes, that was really fun. Kim, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I am not a big fan of Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah, I was not a big fan of that movie. Sorry, Dave. I know we saw it for your proposal, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Yes, Megan, him dancing with Peggy. Oh my god, I still can't watch it. I still like every couple months I'll be like, okay, let's try it. No, I can't watch it. Um, but yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show for Kim, Tara, Lion King, A Quiet Place, Logan, and Spice World. First of all, Lion King, great movie. Love it, especially the animated. Screw the live action. Quiet Place, that is another one I need to watch. I need to watch that one. Logan, oh my god, another ugly cry. Spice World, I love Spice World. I don't care what everyone says. I love Spice World. I could probably quote Spice World line for line. I've seen it so many times when I was a kid. Great movie, really good for the time. Pretty nerdy cosplay. The Joker. Like the movie. It has its issues, but I think every Batman has its problems. But I do like it. I think they did a great interpretation of him. And Freakish Workshop and Trishy Cat Cosplay both said Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Freakish also mentioned Dune. I have not seen Dune yet. I know I think Alex in chat said Dune 2 is coming up. I'm excited for that. I know I got to watch the first one because I got to catch up on that. And yes, Justin in chat says the new Ghostbusters. I'm excited for that one. I really enjoyed the last one. Having Ernie Hudson back, I love Ernie. So it's going to be great to have him back in the suit. Having some fun with the Ghostbusters. Folks, it is 7 after 8. I have kept you late tonight. Thank you all for staying here. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please, I should have said something earlier for everybody in chat, but please, if you can hit the like button, leave a comment on the video after the stream's done. It would mean so much to me. Leave a share. Tell your friends to come next week. Next week, I'm not 100% what we're going to do. I was going to possibly have a guest. I'm going to have to work on fine tuning some things. We might not have a guest next week. We might have to push that 1 week. But stay tuned to my Instagram and my other social media, and we'll definitely be telling you in the next couple days what is coming up. Folks, thank you very much for tuning in. It means so much to me. I will see you all next week. Have a great week, folks. And that's it for Monday Night Nerd. See you guys soon. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.